Welcome to Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we're here to talk about what goes on in the township, the village, those little government entities that make laws and regulations that affect them out there.
Yes, indeed. And whether you live in the village of Oxford, the village of Leonard, Oxford Township, or Addison Township, these are the people that you elected, and the commissions and the committees that make decisions that directly affect you, whether you chose to go to that really important meeting or not. And that's why we're here.
Well, am I glad that's been said?
I did.
You did, okay. And the election is coming up pretty soon.
That's
primary.
right, August
2nd.
August 2nd.
Yep.
That's a primary.
It's a primary. And the primary actually will affect those that are going to be on the November ballot, and it's strictly township for this part of it.
No, it isn't.
Why? Okay, tell me more.
Because I saw the ballot.
Yeah, right.
There's other people. There's state-level people that are also...
Oh, yeah, there are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So whether you're a Democrat or a Republican,
Yeah.
in a lot of cases, it's either you don't get multiple choices within them. In a lot of cases, it's this guy or that guy.
Yeah, right. There's Riley, I think, that's running. There's Joe Kent, I said, that's running.
Yep.
Taking a stab at the House of Representatives, I think. Right?
Oh, well then.
Okay. And there's a couple of issues on the ballot, too, that you need to review. One concerns the zoo, if you want to finance a zoo, for Detroit Zoo.
Oh, I thought we were going to have a zoo out here.
No. But it kind of is somewhere. I mean, there are a lot of animals and horses and things. Well, anyway, that's...
Well, I like the zoo, and I hope it doesn't meet the same fate as the regional transit did.
Right. Well, the regional transit thing is going to be on the November ballot. And
is it?
Of course, most everybody is saying don't vote for that because it doesn't impact Oxford area at all. So, and they're right.
AKA, we would get no bang for our buck.
No. It'll end up for the rural areas down near Detroit and other areas.
Right.
It'll
rural areas around Detroit?
Right. Yeah. And what I'm thinking here is that they're trying to finance, their transportation by using the people of this community and other communities in Oakland County. And most of your political people are pretty staunch in the fact that, you don't want to vote for that.
Their heels are dug in and they will not give.
It is, yeah. And there's lots of backup support in what I say, just by going to OCC TV and just checking on some
Well,
of the
they
meetings.
asked that critical question.
Yep.
Lovely plan, what's in it for me?
Right, exactly. And that's pretty much what everybody is looking at. And let's talk about what's in it for us. And there's two different meetings I want to discuss. One is the Oxford Village Council, and the other one is the Oxford ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals, that's coming up.
That's
And
Oxford...
That would be the village. There was also a Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the township, but let's talk about the village.
Okay.
All right. First one we're going to talk about is the Oxford Village Council. Sue Basarda, of course, is the president. Eric Dolan is on that board, Tom Kinnis, and Maureen Helmuth.
Eric's a new guy in town, isn't he?
He's a new guy, but he's made some pretty good inroads, I think,
betcha.
in establishing himself as a representative of the people out there. That'd be you.
No wallflower.
Yeah, no. So, anyway, the first thing they did is they had a prayer, and they had Pastor Matt from the Holy Cross Church who prayed that there wouldn't be any pitchforks and fire at this particular meeting. You know what I mean, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I've been at those meetings.
Yes, you have.
They keep you awake.
Oh, yeah, they sure do. It's hard putting the fires out, though, later. Pledge. They did a Pledge of Allegiance, of course, which is a good thing. And then they said, well, we have one item here, a lease agreement, I guess, with a company called Evening Group, something along that line. But they set it aside. I have no idea. They didn't cover
Evening
it.
Group?
Yeah, that group, but they didn't bring out the detail of what it was about because they set it aside for another meeting. They didn't think that they had time to do it during this session.
Just when you got my curiosity up.
Well, you just hold that thought for the next 2 weeks. Anyway,
That
maybe
won't.
not.
We'll see how that works.
Right. So then they said, well, what about non-agenda items? A call to the public. So the police chief, Niemanowski, he got up and he said, with all the things going on about police, he said, we had some pretty neat things happen, he said, in the last week. He said this family brought in a box of donuts for the police officers with a nice letter or note, thanking the police force, for what they do in the village. Good thing. Also, he said, we received a number of letters, from various people throughout the community. So he said, we're getting that support, and he said, that's a good thing, for a change.
Good.
He said they really appreciate it. So good words.
It's good to have a police force that's appreciated by the public.
Yes. Good words from the chief. So anyway, so he sat down. The next thing was bills. Yeah, collects payments, make payment to a bill. And their bill was $124,254.32.
Wow, that's not chump change.
No. And it was approved like that. Faster
Wow.
probably than that. Right?
Well, they got a
Okay.
chance to look at this before, so. Yeah.
Well, they did. They review all the bills. I know I used to when I was on the council. Review everything in advance.
I'm
Excuse
sure
me
if there was a
any
nail
questions.
sticking out of that board, they would have tried to hammer it down.
Well, they wouldn't get far with it, I don't think. But anyway, they don't want to because they need to know where every penny is at
Yeah.
at this point. Excuse me, unfinished business. Joe Young said that he was looking for an approval for Lake Orion Dispatch, which you know that we provide the dispatch for Lake
Well,
Orion.
now that our dispatch is dissolving and going to Oakland County, Lake Orion has to figure out Plan B.
Right.
Or I think they already did.
Well, actually, Lake Orion, they submitted a, excuse me, a notice to Lake Orion that they had 6 months.
Now,
to
is
decide
that
what they
Lake
were gonna do.
Orion or Orion Township?
No, Lake Orion, the village.
The village,
Yeah.
okay.
Actually, what's interesting to note, excuse me, got a frog. He went that away.
Yeah.
Anyway, the interesting thing is that Lake Orion Township itself, is actually through the county.
Well,
So
seems like
they
an
choose
easy
to go
move to
that
me.
route. Yeah, it seems like to me too. We'll see what happens. They really don't have any choice at this point, but they got 6 months to determine
They actually
where they're
split
gonna
their
go.
dispatch?
They did.
Wow. Because I know that as long as we had the Oxford dispatch here in the village, the township also shared it, didn't it? Or did it?
Yes, they did. The township and the village had the same police force at that time.
Oh, right. But now the dispatch for the township has been through Oakland County?
Now, through Oakland County is both Oxford Township and Lake Orion, or Orion Township.
In the village of Oxford.
And now it's going to be the village, but it's not really completed yet.
Well, that's fine.
Excuse me. What has to happen here is they have to formulate a committee.
Oh, no.
Yep, they do. Have to have a committee. But first they wanted to approve, the increase to Lake Orion up to that point because, the village is losing money the way it was, the way the previous contract was. I think the contract was at $20,000 somewhere in that neighborhood. So Joe Young, the village manager, said a contract has been drawn up for $30,000, which will cover the expense, at least until it's dissolved.
Well, that's what the last contract was supposed to do.
No, well, we said from the get-go, at least one or two of us did, that, this is not going to fly. It's not going, people are not going to
Okay.
want to pay for this, right?
Okay.
At least the village of Oxford should not pay for Lake Orion's services. And we'll agree with that now, right?
Sure.
They finally agree with it, too. And talking about agreements, we'll talk to you more about this when we come back, right after this.
Oxford Orion Fish helps provide emergency aid to the people of Oxford, Lake Orion, Addison, and Oakland Townships. One of the only self-served food banks in the state, Oxford Orion Fish provides once-a-month food supplies based on the size of the family. To donate, volunteer, or to find out more, call Oxford Orion Fish at 248-628-3933 or go to their website, oxfordorionfish.org. Oxford Orion Fish, neighbors helping neighbors.
Welcome back to Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we are talking about the Oxford Village Council meeting
Yep.
that they had on July 12th. And we were talking about the increased fees to Lake Orion, the village,
Right.
for 911 services. And it's been increased to $30,000. That was approved, by the way.
But that's a temporary thing because now that we're transitioning over to the county, they'll have to put their paddle in the water.
You would think they want to paddle really fast. Those waves will be really high. Anyway, the interesting thing then came up, several council people, they said, well, how is that going to impact the village on 911? Are we tying ourselves into a contract? That is going to tie us to having 911 here? And the answer to that was no. The Bill Davis is the one that set the contract, and all the wording is proper, and they've been notified.
911 equals
Equals.
Oakland County.
Yep, it does. So, anyway.
So what happens when you, just to interrupt,
Yeah.
which I tend to do,
You do.
what happens when someone dials 911 off their cell phone?
If they dial 911 off the cell phone, it'll go directly to the county,
Which county?
Oxford, or Oakland County.
Oh,
Oakland
right.
County.
Okay,
They've got a massive dispatch service there.
okay.
They've got a good 14, 17, 18 maybe dispatchers that work out of there.
Someone told me
regularly.
once that they were kind of on the edge of the county and they did dial 911 and initially went up to Lapeer, but then it went back to
Right.
Oakland County. So-
That could have happened, I
Yeah,
guess.
on a periphery.
Because
yeah.
you got to understand that one time, when we were handling 911 in the village here, that a lot of times the dispatcher for Oakland County would pick it up, and they would handle it that way. And they actually did back up, the police force and 911 services here.
Kind of like ambulances. Who gets there
Yeah.
first?
Well, again, they have a backup system there
Right,
too.
right.
If we can't make it, then Lake Orion, they volunteer,
Well, yeah.
or Addison Township.
Building redundancy, especially into systems, ensures public safety.
Sure. What do you do in a real emergency?
Sure.
A tornado, something along that line. You need all of this infrastructure in place.
Yep.
Right? Okay. There are other things they talked about. Electronic sign was an issue. That went before the Planning Commission. They said, are we going to have LED signs out there? And they said, no, we don't want them. So anyway, they sent the message to
However,
the
if
council.
you've got one, you can keep it.
Right. Right. Anyways, the council actually has to make the deciding vote. So, and they said no. They're not going to have any changes to the existing ordinance, that they'll go along with the recommendation from the Planning Commission. And it was noted. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. I see the little wrinkled forehead. What's going on? Okay.
Well, I'm sure that people that wanted an electronic sign and sees the electronic signs that are already there might feel a little miffed.
Right. We did talk about the Regional Transportation Authority, or the RTA millage that's going to be coming up in November.
The what again?
It's the millage.
the RTA,
Yeah, the
okay.
RTA that
Yeah.
we talked about at the beginning. Somehow
Right.
got sidetracked and got into it.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
They actually became part of the agenda here. And they, let me see, Councilperson Helmuth said she was all for it. She said, even though we don't get any benefit from it, it's nice to help those people out. Well, Subasarda said,
After all, we
She
have
was-
all that money to spare.
right? Subasarda, the chairperson, she says, and president, she says, I'm in disagreement. She says, I think NOTA is doing a great job here. And of course, Helmuth chimed in, well, they don't take our people to Detroit, whereas these other people would.
Did you know we actually had a rail that went right through the middle of Oxford that actually did take people to Detroit?
Yeah, actually, there's a.
That was 2 or 3 years ago.
Did you see that on the history? Matter of fact, they're doing a history program on
Oh, really?
TV. Yep. And they're talking about that.
Ah.
It was somebody who retired as a fire chief, knows all this stuff, and
Oh,
he's been
yeah.
interviewed. So anyway, you folks check it out. It's on the agenda out there. You want to learn more about what's going on in Oxford, has gone on in Oxford in the past. The history program that they have really is quite revealing.
As in, the Pollyant Trail really wasn't the Pollyant Trail forever. It was something else.
Yeah, it was a little place where thousands and thousands of ants used to go.
It was a railroad track.
Yeah, it was.
I think.
It was. But anyway, so they went forward with this, and they said, well, they all agreed, at least the majority of them, that they don't want to approve this Regional Transportation Authority that's going to be on the ballot. So they all agreed, except for Helmuth, Councilwoman Helmuth.
Well, the loyal
Okay.
opposition.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a free place, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Appointment of 911 transition team. Now there we go. The people that volunteered to be on this transition team are Eric Dolan.
Is that IE committee?
That's a committee.
Okay.
Yep, it's a team, actually, a committee.
Just wondered if there were two different groups.
No, this is the same group. Same team plays on the same group. Anyway, Eric Dolan is volunteered, and so is Rose Bima to work with this transition. Bob Davis, the attorney, also will work on it, as well as Joe Young, the village manager.
Is there an effective date for the whole transfer of responsibility?
Yes. As quickly as possible.
I see.
However way they can
But it ain't
make the
set yet.
transition. No, it's not set yet.
Okay.
Let me see. Public comment. They want to know if there's any public comment. And Bill Dunn jumped up. He says, I got something to say here. He said, everybody knows all those orange barrels, he said, running up M24. Yeah, we all see that. What are they doing? He says, well, I checked with MDOT. He said, MDOT says that they're going to grind up the surface and they're going to put new surface down.
Really?
Yep. From
They
here,
spent a lot of time putting great big patches on that strip of road.
yeah. Well, they found out that didn't work too well. So anyway, they're going to go from Harriet Road to the county line north. So it's gonna
County
be-
to Lapeer.
Yep.
Are they?
To Davison Road, I guess it is, or whatever.
Okay.
So
Oh, that's cool.
it's going to be quite a run. You're going to have a nice road when it's done, but until then, can you say bumpy?
Well, can you say
Slow.
Can you say traffic jam?
Yeah. Well, that's going to happen anyway because you know what they're doing in Lake Orion, and in Orion Township right now.
Yeah, my wife has to avoid that like the sin right now.
Yeah.
Because that adds about another half hour to her travel.
Oh yeah. You try to take the back road, and you find out all the people that were on 24 are now over on the back. So there's no progress. You find that too?
That's kind of like going up north to get away from everyone. They all went up north.
Yeah, yeah. You meet people up there that you know. Oh, why would you go up there? I don't know. I guess that's why. So anyway, Bill wanted to make sure that people were aware of that, and Joe Young. I'm going to get mixed up here. Joe Young wanted to do the manager's report, which he did.
Okay.
He said we're getting prepared. He said for the Lone Ranger festival that's coming up. So he said. They've been working on repairing park benches, which have been kind of dilapidated.
Who
and other
sponsors the Lone Ranger Festival?
things. Who sponsors it?
It's under what auspices?
Actually, it's
Is it the DDA, the Chamber of Commerce? What is it?
actually several groups are working, but they don't sponsor it. Rod Charles actually put Rod Charles is the one that actually began this thing, and through donations, actually has started from practically a little baby, teeny weeny little egg, and now has generated this massive festival that they put on. It's pretty interesting stuff.
Wow.
But yes, he has the chamber involved, and he has DDA involved, but to my knowledge, it's all publicly financed.
Yeah, and it's also
So-
tied into, once the parade is over, downtown Oxford turns into quite a fair.
It does. It's neat. If you haven't gone, it's coming up. So watch, our station. We'll give you more on this as we come along. Matter of fact, there's a promo running right now, right?
Yes, and
Okay.
the date would be August, what?
Yes.
Isn't it August 6th?
I believe it's August 6th, but you know
Okay.
what? Don't believe him. He spreads rumors. So get out there. There's a promo running right now on OCCTV.org. So-
Even if you show up and there's no one there, well, you can always blame me.
You could have your own parade. Yeah, there you are. Talking about your own parade. We'll be back right after this, folks. Welcome back, Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we were talking about the parade and when is it going to be, you know, for the Lone Ranger Festival.
Absolutely.
It is definitely
August 6th.
It is. We found that out. Okay. Now, that pretty much covers the village, except for the Zoning Board of Appeals for the village. And Joe Bullen is the chairperson. Joe's been around for a long time. He served several capacities in both village and in the township area.
Oh, you're part of the Zoning Board of Appeals, aren't you?
I would be there. Yep, that would be me.
Uh-huh.
I'm there. Okay. Rose Bema is on that board. Mike Bard, Gary Deeg is on that board as well. Of course, myself, Marilyn Benner, who would be Tom Benner's wife, who was the
Late Tom Benner, yeah.
late Tom Benner, who was the president of the council at
Yes,
one
he
time.
was. Did a good job.
Nice man. She's a nice person too. I want to make that statement. Alternate is Dave Bailey. We had a quorum, so Dave Bailey was there, but he didn't sit on the board. The thing that came up was a petition from Richard and Jennifer Martin, who live on Lincoln Street, and that street is zone R1.
Which
And
is primary
residential 1,
Okay.
one family.
Let there be nothing
Single
else.
family, right, right, on that zoning. What they're looking for is not a
A variance?
variance, right, that was the word I was looking for. They're not looking for a variance, they're looking for a interpretation of what the ordinance reads and the section for R1 and what you can have. Because here's the thing, their property, they have 75 foot of frontage and roughly 100 feet back. It's kind of an odd piece of property, but
Oh, well, if they don't
In-
get what
in
they want,
town.
that could be a setback.
in town. But they have, they have 13 beagle dogs
Oh, dear God.
and they have one chow in that area. Can you say woof? Okay,
Beagles don't go woof, they go whoop.
right. So anyway, so there's quite a discussion that went down on this thing.
Especially if they see a rabbit. God help us
Right.
with all those.
Right. And when I actually scouted the area and I talked to the neighbors before this meeting, and I can tell you that they all spoke highly of the gentleman and his wife that live at that location. But they said if I live next door, I wouldn't want 13, 15 dogs, you know, next to me. And it also would shoot down property values.
This
if
is
they
in the
attempt to
village
sell.
proper, right?
It's in the village proper, yes.
Oh, well,
So
you'd usually think of that many dogs in a kennel being out in the country somewhere.
you do. And actually, they have property up north that eventually they're going to move up there and hopefully take the dogs with them. But the thing is,
Are they raising these dogs, or are
Well,
they simply just...
they've been doing this for 10 years.
We'd like to have this many dogs.
The gentleman was from Rochester originally, and he married the lady here, moved into her home. And I think really they're looking at maybe a temporary thing, and it kind of, you know, grew into this thing. He's a very good handler of dogs. She is too. They love pets, and
Good.
of course we do too on the board. But you have to go by the requirements for the R1 zoning, and also the definition of what a commercial kennel is, and that's what he was looking for.
Are they selling dogs?
In a way, they're bartering because they're exchanging dogs with other people, and he uses it for uses the dogs for competition also.
Oh, so they're show dogs.
And well, kinda, you know. They also all have
Or
papers.
are they working dogs?
They have, yeah. They can be working dogs, can be show dogs too, depending what he wants to use them for. But they all have pedigree papers. You know, you don't go for papers unless
I have
you
pedigree
got
papers.
something going.
Do you have
You
pedigree
do?
papers? Yes.
How'd you get those? They wouldn't give me one. They wouldn't give my wife one either for me. So I don't get it. So anyway, so in order to be commercial, you have to prove that they're using it for sale, boarding the dogs, or training, or grooming the dogs. And he does use them for training. So he does fall into that. Non-commercial is hobby, protection. Now the chow would be a good protection. Pets, I don't know what a beagle would be. I mean, they're pretty friendly, but
Yeah, they are.
yeah, they chase rabbits. You throw a rabbit in, they'll chase them all day, right?
That's right.
Kind of like you. When I give you a problem, you chase it all day till you find it.
If you throw a rabbit in, the rabbit will not live long.
Yeah.
However, if a rabbit passes by, they'll go nuts.
My grandfather used to have beagles. I can tell you what, it's uncanny how they can shake out a rabbit.
Yeah, they chase them in a great big circle.
And then when they find them, they'll make a noise unless you know they're there.
That's when someone's usually sitting at the other end of it with a shotgun.
Usually, right. So anyway, it was determined that the gentleman didn't like the determination, but that he fell under commercial kennel situation.
Oh,
So could not have him there. He's in violation
but
of the code.
is he dealing with something that he's already done, it's already in place? Like so many other violations have occurred.
Right. Well,
Fait accompli, but now what does he have to do?
well, he's got to eliminate the dogs down to 3, because in a residential area you can have 3 dogs or 3 cats or a combination thereof, but you can't have 13 dogs, in your backyard howling. And that
I wish my
size
chipmunks
property.
could obey that rule.
Yeah, and the concern was too, if that child gets out, they're not the friendliest animal in the world for other families. They're good
No.
for you, but not so much for other people when if they're
Beagles?
out.
Beagles are friendly little dogs.
Yeah, beagles are friendly, but 15 of them, would you want to live next to them?
Isn't, they don't use beagles when they
That's a
ride
trick
when they
question.
ride to the hounds. That's another kind of hound, isn't it?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You're thinking of bloodhound.
No, not bloodhounds. There's a different kind of hound. I'm talking, the red livery, the little black helmets, and the horses and the horn and all that
those,
good stuff.
holy smokes.
The hunt.
What kind of dreams have you been having?
I think they do that out at Metamora Hunt Club.
I have no idea. Take a note.
Well, I took a note.
Okay, real good. So anyway, so they need to know that if they're commercial, they need to have 2 acres of land minimum. And if
How many acres do they have?
they don't have a single acre,
Oh.
and if they have up 10 dogs, then they need an additional acre. So they're going to need between
So-
2 and 4 acres of land.
So here's the deal. If they had never showed up at the CBA, what would have happened?
Okay, there would have been complaints, and
What?
there was complaints.
Was there?
Yep, there were
That's
complaints.
how this occurred?
That's how this occurred. So they wanted a definition. They wanted, I think, the skirt, the definition of what the ordinance was.
Okay.
And that didn't happen. So it
And
was,
that's what the ZBA is there
right.
for.
And this gentleman actually held a commercial type license from Rochester, but their system is different than what we have here in Oxford. So he attempted to make a comparison there, but that didn't fly because we're a different community and we have different ordinances and regulations here. Although commercial kennels are based on state law, and there are criteria for that in licensing.
And they were in violation of that too?
They're in violation of that too.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Nice people, but it just didn't
Well-
work out in their favor in this case, and it did work out for the residents in the area.
Well,
in fact, they don't have
and
to
to
put
some
up the
extent,
sound or the
it does
noise.
affect property values.
It does.
And other things, and perceptions of safety and stuff like that. Yeah,
Well, there
okay.
are small children in the area
Sure.
too, but the thing is, the question
Getting,
lies,
getting to bed at night.
there's a full moon and all of a sudden all the dogs want to howl. That would be a scenario, wouldn't it?
Oh my Lord.
And how do you sell your property even next door to all these dogs? Pretty hard to do, probably.
It could be,
You lose your value.
unless the person that moved in just really loved dogs.
Right. But anyway, so needless to say, the information was interpreted, and the owners of the dogs weren't happy, of course. But
So did they give
that's the
him
way it is.
did they give him a timeline to
as soon as possible.
ASAP?
And since he didn't come forward on a variance, he can still do that. But I don't honestly see how they can skirt the law on this one.
Yeah, ASAP is very generic.
Yeah.
I know what happens a lot with ASAP.
You're right. ASAP. What's coming up next, by the way?
Okay, we do have meetings coming up on 7/18 at 7 o'clock, the Village of Oxford Zoning Board of Appeals. And at 7 o'clock on 7/18, the Village of Leonard Zoning Board of Appeals. And on 7/19 at 7 o'clock, the Village of Oxford Planning Commission. Followed, well, at the same time, the Addison Township Fire Administrative Board, one of your favorites.
Yep.
And on 7/25, our parent organization is meeting. At 4 o'clock, the Oxford Area Cable Communications Commission.
Well, holy tamale, there's a lot going on, huh?
And we're meeting all the time now at the Village of Oxford offices. We used to rotate around all over the place. And on 7/26 at 6:30, the Oxford Board of Education. That's John Ochen's bailiwick
Yeah,
there.
it is.
Yep.
Okay. Be sure to catch John Ochens on his show.
Absolutely.
Schooling around.
He does great interviews.
Until then, I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
We'll catch you right here next time on Minutes by Minute.
See you then.